Hello and welcome back to Take Two. We're your hosts, licensed therapist Lindsay Fleming
and Stacy McCarthy.
And today we are talking all about friendships.
Friendships at all the stages.
All the stages, all the ways. And if we do a quick check-in about us, this weekend we were at one of our therapists got married. And speaking of like friendships and different dynamics and different types of friends, it was really interesting to see someone we see in the office.
Out of their element.
Yes, like with their significant other, at their wedding, with their family and friends.
I know.
It was so fun.
It was interesting because I think with you, I've already seen you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But with her, she's been here for like 3 years. And we've never really met anybody. So it was fun. It was nice to see.
I know. And that like everyone knew who we were. I was like, oh my gosh.
And it was a really fun, beautiful wedding. So that was good.
That was a good time.
That is a work friend.
Yes.
But let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to start with... So we thought throughout this episode today, we would start with just kind of walking through friendships by age group and then talking a little bit more about the importance and why we need to invest in our friendships.
Yeah, and how it changes as we get older.
So starting with the young school aged. So those
Elementary
friendships,
school.
typically start with like the class, right? I want to invite everybody in my class to my birthday party and
A shared space.
It's more about, we're all playing tag or we're all doing these activities together. And as they grow up a little bit throughout elementary school, we start to see a shift where friendships become a lot more... What's the word? This is our second time not remembering it. I said it earlier.
Oh, complex.
Complex, yes.
Where friendships become complex.
Where friendships become a lot more complex.
Well, and as you're saying that too, I think when kids are younger, it really can be orchestrated by the parents. So in elementary school, like you are friends with kids from school, but you're also friends with your parents' friends' kids.
Yes.
And then I think later, as it becomes more complex, you kind of fork off and sometimes find your own friends, and it's not always the same.
Yes.
So it's an adjustment.
I wonder if that's hard on parents.
It is hard on parents, especially if it's awkward. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes it's okay, but sometimes when there's a split, it can be weird for parents.
Especially, yes. And I think of a few clients who also, they'll tell me, oh, my mom said to make sure I'm including this person, but they're not a nice person, or we don't have anything in common. So it's also, I'm sure, hard on the parents are talking and hearing about each other's child's experience, and then how do you
It is dicey, which we'll get to later about maybe how to not be so involved.
Yes.
But so grade school, it starts to get more complex as they get older.
Definitely. And we see as we get into later elementary school, so what age is that? That's like 8, 9, 10, maybe 11. That's where we start to see a lot more... like kids coming and talking about the dynamics of exclusion conflict is a good way to put it.
Bullying.
Yes. And we like to say that it's really important to encourage your kids to have friends of different places. Yeah,
I agree with that. If you're always just with the same group, you have kind of like no refuge if things go wrong, or even if you just need a break.
Yes.
I think like being on a travel team and building friendships with those kids, or taking an art class, whatever it is, just having the different groups or different schools. Like here, we have the Catholic schools, and most kids go to the public school, but I think it's nice to have a little diversity in the friends.
Definitely, yes. And I guess we can get into never mind. I was going to say something, but I'll hold on to that one.
Okay.
But then we transition to middle school.
Rough stuff.
We're just going to call it rough.
Middle school? Like if you get out unscathed, congratulations. Hard.
Was middle school hard for you?
Oh my God, yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I feel like I did not hear about this. Probably have.
I probably am like repressed it. I didn't have a lot of friends in middle school. Like honestly, like I did in high school. But I had switched to a school, and this is a great example about not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Okay,
so to speak.
tell me.
I had one.
I'm excited.
I know, like you don't know this. Yeah. I had one really good friend, and we were really good friends, and she was just like my best friend. It was an all-girl school. And she up and moved like in March of our 7th grade year. Oof. I mean, and this was my complete, or was it 8th grade? I don't know when it was, one of the years. I mean, this was my complete, I want to say like only friend that I did stuff with. And she moved. Her mom lived in St. Louis. Her dad lived in California. moved, like in the...
That leaves you
like literally
hanging. Like you're just like,
it was
okay.
so bad.
See, it's all fine until
you get one little shift.
Move.
Yeah, and like I couldn't have accounted for that. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But then it was okay, and then I was at still the same school, and then the next year I just met a bunch of people, and it was different.
Or was it hard from what you remember? Is it?
Not as a freshman, but as a middle schooler, it was. I don't know why it was easier as a freshman. Like if I was able to just interact with different people. And then,
well, I think in high school, even if it is kind of similar schooling, there's this refresh start a little bit. In high school, where like
it gets
groups
mixed up a
naturally
little.
are starting to change. Where I feel like in middle school, you don't find your group in the beginning. It's harder to like get into a group that's already established. Where in high school, there's a lot of shifts happening your first year.
Maybe that's what happened. But I don't know. So it was rough for you too, I know.
Oh, yeah. Very rough.
Gosh.
So I just couldn't really find my people.
Yeah. But I think that's good. I mean, we talked about that, how I said, I see you as being, we never talked about mine, but I see you as being so social and like people being drawn to you, that you, knowing that you had such a rough time, you know, that it always, like we said, it's a wave. You said it's a wave.
It is a wave. And my social skills were not what they are today. I think that's
and
a
then
big
it gets
piece of it too.
better.
Yeah.
Well, and can we say that's something too, I think talking to parents about elementary school kids before we go to middle school and middle school, when you talk about, you know, parents are saying this and that about another kid, just to be self-aware too about your own child and like what is really going on. And you always are getting half of a story. You know, I mean, there's three sides.
Or it's filled with emotion as well. Yeah.
And not to say, you know, there's sometimes there's a right or a wrong, but sometimes I think with kids, they have these gaps. And as parents, we need to help them. Like, are you not reading social cues?
Yes.
One of my children at one point used to just excessively text people. I mean, when they, I'm going to not even say, like, not going to give a clue, when they were younger, really a lot younger.
Yeah.
I looked on the phone and would text like 6 times to ask a question. And I had to be like, wait, I know that you don't know this. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to feel silly or stupid, but like, you need to know that can be perceived as annoying. So, I mean, just for parents to realize, you know, is your child like overly impulsive or not reading social cues? And that's okay. It's just you kind of help them build those skills.
Exactly. Yes. And I think too, sometimes I wonder if it's hard for what I hear from parents and kids is when you have one sibling who is like a social butterfly and has very good social skills and is getting invited everywhere.
I think is there a family alive that doesn't have that?
And then you have a sibling who doesn't.
Yeah.
Isn't as easily connected in that way, which doesn't mean that they have to be.
Right.
But I think it puts a lot of pressure.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
But and we'll talk more to this, speak more to it too. No, not sorry. Just saying how different people need different things socially.
Yes.
So maybe that kid that's not as social, they may or may not want that. And I think that's a big difference too. I think it's hard when you have a kid and you know they want to be connected and they're trying. But then if you have one that just is kind of happier to be home more, I think you can be more at peace with that.
And I say like middle schoolers, they can like sniff out the people who really want to be friends with them. And it's like that puts them off. Like, you know, like the more I feel like my clients try less to be in a group, the more they find their people.
Too thirsty and they won't take you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know.
Okay.
The dynamics.
Rough landscape. So I feel,
I know.
You know,
especially
I feel like,
girls. We know girls tend to struggle. From what the research I've read shows, like girls really mentally, like mental health wise, tend to struggle middle school. Boys, we start to see it show up more freshman year of high school. So I find that interesting too.
Yeah, I know. There's not as much attention, I feel like, given to boys. But I will say during middle school, there's a lot of relational aggression that can get really ugly with girls.
Yes.
Maybe a little with boys, but no, I don't see it very much.
Yeah.
I mean, with boys, I think it's usually more straight up bullying. Like they say it to your face.
And we talked a lot because we did a middle school boys group, which was like so fun.
Yeah.
And we talked to them a lot about, boundaries. I loved I know you didn't create it because every time I give you a compliment, you have to like not take it. You brought it to the group though.
Yes.
The idea of like talking about sports in the way of boundaries with friendships. And a lot of them really resonated with that and said there's a lot of ways that their friends, I'm just joking, but
do
the
things
joke
that they
hurts
don't like,
my feeling.
but they don't feel like they know how to say anything.
Yes. Or they can't say anything.
Yeah, that was interesting. So that is with boys. And I think with girls, you know, with the more relational aggression, more one person trying to turn everybody against a girl or, you know, a lot of the like talking behind backs. And I think it's just hard because you don't know who you can trust. And that's kind of when you're individuating, and really like friends are obviously so important. So I think that's why the combo of that is kind of brutal.
Yes. And we've said this a million times. Thinking about me growing up, okay, I didn't get invited to the sleepover. I had to hear about it on Monday. These girls, everyone have each other's Snapchat location. Oh, they're all at Sarah's house and I'm not invited. They have group chats. No one answers me in the group chat, but everybody answers this person. There's Snapchat group chats. There's like chats with the big group, little smaller group. Like there's so many ways to feel excluded that sometimes it's all we can focus on. So even how do you allow your kid to like not to have skin in the game and other things than just friendships?
I agree with that,
well.
so that you're not just sitting at home noticing. You know, take a class and go meet that other group. Like if you're having a hard time in middle school.
Yes. Like my mom took me to Second City.
Yeah, I love that.
When I was having a hard time connecting with peers in my community.
That's such a good idea, though, I think, for anybody.
An acting class, which also gave me good social skills. So shout out, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, so it was an improv class with kids my age. And then, of course, I forced Maggie to do it with me. My one and true
you
friend,
did have
Maggie.
a friend.
Yes, I did have a friend. And we would drive downtown, which is like the last thing my mom wanted to do was drive downtown on weekends. But I met people and felt confident, and I think my social skills grew from that.
It's supposed to really build your confidence. I mean, I think that that's a good idea for kids who are struggling with confidence or assertiveness. Okay, so that's middle school. Let's move on to high school.
Oof.
You see a lot of high schoolers. What are you seeing?
I see a lot of high schoolers who feel excluded, the waves of friendships. And this is what I always talk to clients about and parents. And you said a very good point that I want you to repeat, but I won't say it for you. But the idea of high school, the dynamics, I think with COVID added another layer as well. But there's a lot of teens who say, like, all my friends hate me now. I have no friends. And then 2 weeks later, it's like they're back on with their friends. And, oh, I don't like this person. All they do is gossip about people. And then they're best friends with that person again. So there's a lot of waves in the friendship. And
did I say about the parents?
Yes.
Okay, what I said when we were talking about this is, as a parent, it does happen with the waves in the friendship. And sometimes, again, things can get really ugly, where as a parent, you could get upset, you know, if your
reading, like,
child is
when
being
teens
targeted.
open up and they're like, this is what she said to me, reading you texts or things like that.
Yes, and if you feel like something is hurtful. But I said you always have to be mindful not to really too much go off on somebody or really share, you know, like, oh, she's on whatever it is. Because I said that kid will be sitting at your kitchen table next year.
Yeah.
It always comes around. Not always, but I think just to be careful. Don't risk it. And then also and we've discussed this before too, knowing that they're probably going to come back together, you don't want to get so emotional and escalated because I think then there's no co-regulation.
And they get
your
defensive.
kid is, then your kid is all worked up, or they don't want to tell you because your emotions were so big. But also they're back at the kitchen table. So just remember that.
Yeah. And I also see, which this I think relates to what I'm going to say, even though we're talking about friendships, with a lot of my teens who I see in like unhealthy romantic relationships, whether they're isolating themselves completely from their friend group or the significant other is not kind, maybe lying, like a lot of things that
stuff that you wouldn't
want anyone I care about like in a relationship with. The approach of what you're saying too, of not going in and being like, he shouldn't say that to you or this or that, and doing more, which is what we were talking about earlier, is how do you feel when you're around that person?
Yes, asking, and that's a good example, but with friends too.
Yeah.
How does that person make you feel? Instead of just kind of imparting your thoughts on a person that you don't like, because then I feel like you get resistance and just push back.
Right. And you're missing an opportunity to help your kid learn self-awareness, perspective taking, assertiveness. Like, even it's not, oh, you have to say something, but just recognizing, you know what, I noticed every time I leave, I feel like I'm worried that they're going to be talking about me because all they do is talk about other people. And it's like, oh,
that means something.
How does that make you feel? Where normally my first reaction would be like, oh, well, then you shouldn't be, like, that's not a good friend. But that just makes the kid shut down. So instead being like, oh, that's interesting, and just letting your kid sit with it, I think.
Bring that awareness.
Yes. Or like, what do you want to do about that? And they'd be like, nothing. Be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Which also reminds me, we were talking about with grade school, helping your child if there's conflict, not getting in there too early and managing it for them. and I guess this could go for really any age when you have kids, but really helping them try to manage it. Obviously, like if there's, bullying or something really
there's
serious.
There's levels that need to be escalated.
You need to go
Yeah.
and they need the help of an adult, but really trying to work with them so that they feel empowered, that they can deal with the friendship conflicts and they can go out there and say, and giving them choices.
Yes. And so this is one, maybe that's a tangible way to help parents as well. So I'll get kids who are like, I'm mad at this person, or I'm upset, or they've been ignoring me, and I'll be like, okay, well, I don't, what do you want to do? I want to reach out to them. Okay, what do you want to say? I don't know. And they like want me to
fill in the blank,
tell them what to say. And so I say, okay, well, what do you want to get across?
Yeah.
And sometimes saying that, they're like, well, I want them to know that like I'm upset that they're not answering, that I miss them. It's like, okay, how can we say that in a way that they won't get defensive? So it's more like focusing on the I statements.
Right.
Like,
I was going to say, I've done I statements with I feels with middle schoolers.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, I feel like we haven't hung out in a long time. I miss you. Like, and then giving a tangible, do you want to go? I'm like, and then what do you want to do together? Do you want to walk to Starbucks? Do you want to go to ice? Like, what do you want to do? It's like, want to go to Starbucks
Which is such
tomorrow?
a good lesson, I think, too, in communication. Instead of getting mad about it, instead of taking it to the group or being like, this person's ignoring me.
To this person, to this person, but not the actual person it's about.
And
a lot of avoidance.
Yes, and I think that's a good thing for parents, too, and in stuff that we can do in our office is teaching, when you have these needs or when you're upset about something, how communicating it earlier and not just stewing over it or getting mad or talking behind someone's back, how that is really the best way to go.
Yeah. I have a rule with my teen clients that if to give it 48 hours, if they're still upset about it, then you can reach out. But it's not fair to go tell everyone else about how they're not being a good friend or how frustrated you are if you aren't going to tell the person you're talking about.
That's the old, if you're talking about them, try talking to them.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Oldie but a goodie.
Yeah, exactly. Bringing it back.
Okay. And then we move on to college age.
Yeah. Which, again, I think college is interesting because for some people it's the best years of their life and they find a sorority or a, just like a group that they maybe met in their dorm. And I think some people go into college with that expectation and it can be jarring when that doesn't happen. So I think managing expectations as people go to college.
I hear a lot of people telling teens college is going to be your time to shine. And I'm just like,
I try to watch that. Because it could be, but it also could not be. And then you don't want somebody to have these expectations and get there and just be devastated and also feel like, why is this not working for me? When there are so many people. I mean, in my old practice, I saw so many kids that came back because they didn't, and mostly it was social. They just didn't really thrive in whatever environment. And sometimes you don't pick the right school. And there's all different
Some
circumstances.
people get lucky with their roommate becomes their best friend. Some people don't have,
100%.
There's a lot that goes into it more than just like, oh, you're going to go to school and you're going to have fun.
I would agree. I would agree.
I think a lot of people, they go to high school, it's like you have to make new friends all over again.
It's a whole, it's start over. And we talked about too, I'm watching this show and the, guy that was so popular in high school goes to ASU and he nobody likes him. And it's just really interesting. Your role is not necessarily, you're the same person, but you're in a different system. Environment. So how it could be different. So I don't know.
That's where I saw with a lot of my guy friends from high school going to college and having to adapt to a new role, like you're saying, because here in our community, like the football team is like a
big deal.
Everybody loves football team, which is great, and they do very well. However, I think that was tied to a lot of their identities.
Yeah,
so then they go to college. Who am I? Which is really hard, you know? And I think girls, we talk about girl friendships tend to be more intimate than guy friendships. So at least even if I was feeling that way and I had friends or my mom I could talk to, I feel like guys, it's harder for them to put into language how they're feeling or to know who they can talk to about that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yes. So college, we like to say you can be excited for certain aspects of it, keep expectations of some things might be hard and we'll figure it out together.
Well, and too, that you might have to initiate and be proactive. I like to look with clients that in high school have had a harder time socializing, pull up the clubs of the college. Yeah. And I say pick 3. You don't have to do all 3, but start with 3. And then you at least have a smaller subgroup of people that are like you.
Yes.
So
I think having a common interest or something to go to makes it easier.
It's something that you go to regularly. Yes. That you can actually build that because maybe some people can do it in class and, but not everybody can. So I think college is just really, it just really depends.
I also think in college, sometimes for teens, it's different than your parents are at home with you all the time. And it's easy for you to catch your kid kind of seeming withdrawn or like anxious, where it's like, it's a lot more of the kid being able to say like, hey, this is what I'm having a hard time with.
Yeah.
I wonder too, like, I know my freshman year, I had a really hard time. Like, I was very homesick. And I don't think my parents were expecting that at all, because I love people. So they were like, what do you mean? Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to go back. My mom's like, in the time, my mom's like, you at least need to try. Like, you're continue to go, whatever. But she said she had a hard time, like, what is forcing my kid versus like recognizing that my kid needs to come home.
Right.
So she said internally she was battling a lot, but externally all I saw was like, she was like, no, you can do this. Like, you're going to enjoy it eventually.
Right.
But forced me to finish my freshman year. Yeah. And I loved it. My sophomore year was way better than my freshman year.
I think that's a hard thing too. Yeah. If somebody says they're miserable or they hate it. I think it's nice if you can stay a semester. At least,
but try to ride that.
Because the discomfort. They said when I dropped off my oldest daughter at college, I went to a counseling panel. You can pick a panel, so I went to the counselor, and they said, "Don't come visit for 6 weeks."
Yeah,
which I don't know if I listened to that, but it was close. It was close, but she was far enough away that like she wasn't going to come home. Yeah. So it's almost like giving them time to sit in that discomfort and kind of get over those feelings, which like are probably very natural. Mm-hmm. All the comforts of home aren't there.
Yes.
You're just used to being able to like walk by your mom and dad.
Yeah. And I think I had painted this picture. College was going to be so fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be the highlight of my life. Living with my best friend. But because I chose to go to the community college, we stayed in an apartment together, but that made me so disconnected. For making friends. So that was a big...
That is harder, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a lot harder.
Yeah.
And she had a boyfriend, so it was like... Like, I had people, but it just wasn't the same.
But you stuck it out.
And I think we talk about this a lot, too. College, with whether kids stay home to go to community college, pick a trade, whatever it is. I think there's a lot of comparison. So I'd be looking at other people from my high school going to these big schools, and they had, like... They're 20 girls together in a photo. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't name like one new girlfriend I've made, So it's like.
Feeling like you're missing out.
A lot of comparison.
Back to that all the time. Mm-hmm. And where are we seeing it? Social media and just taking it with a grain. Yeah. And realizing also just because that's fun for this person or this is kind of the idea of what we think of when we, think of college, not everyone has to have that experience and not everybody wants it. But sometimes it feels like, why don't I have this?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and I learned quickly, like, okay, I would look on Instagram and it'd be this group of girls I knew. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks like they had such a fun weekend. Then it'd be like talking, once I got settled and like did make a lot of friends in college, I'd be talking to one of the girls in the group and I'd be like, oh my gosh, the trip looks so fun. And she's like, oh, you didn't hear the drama? And then all of a sudden it's like.
Completely. Always.
Behind the photo.
Give me a photo of like 7 or more college girls on a trip, and there's always
going to be something
fun, but it's not for everybody. Yeah. So just to be mindful.
Okay, then we get to young adulthood,
which we talk about a lot. I feel because
they're lonely.
It's a transition, and it can be really hard because coming out of that. Not saying that college is the best time of everybody's life, but I think by the time you're probably a senior, you've settled in with some type of group that is just there, and you're in classes with people, and you're, you
live down the street from people.
Yeah, you're surrounded, and then
you have games and this going on and this going on.
You get plopped back at home, which, depending, I guess, on where your high school friends are, may or may not be easy. I think it's hard, and depending on where you work, who are you interacting with, and really, like, who are you as a person? It's a big transition.
Yes. And we talk, I think the young adults is where I hear the most. Like, I think high school, I hear a lot of conflict. Elementary, middle school, high school, a lot of conflict, a lot of big emotions.
Yeah.
College, I feel like there's a lot of drinking, a lot of like
mistakes have been made,
choices being made, and a hard time maybe figuring that out.
Yeah, and then just getting your independence. Yeah. You know what I mean? Figuring that out.
Yes. And then young adulthood, I just hear like lonely. Like I feel lonely.
It's lonely. It's lonelier than people over 60, the early 20s. So that's for real. And I think that's another time where if you come home or if you're starting over somewhere, you have to be a little bit proactive and deliberate. And we did talk about some of these things, the I guess the flip side, the positives of social media. I have a client who did is it called Bumble BFF?
I think so.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Where literally you go on like the way that you would swipe for dating, and you swipe, and she met this girl at a coffee house. I mean, they became friends.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I have more than I have 2 clients that did
that. But it's putting yourself out there. That's the theme. It's like it's uncomfortable to put yourself out there, but that's how you find people. I also think like I've worked with a lot of clients too on this idea of being so fixated on friends looking and being a specific way, right? Meaning like I had a client who really enjoyed the gym they were at.
Okay.
And they were made friends with people at the gym and they were different ages and different there was a mom and this, and she was comparing like, but I don't have a lot of friends my age, but I'm like, why does it have to be defined? Are you enjoying your time together?
Yeah.
Do you feel connected? Do you leave feeling energized?
I never thought of that. But as you say that, that's the first time where maybe you are meeting somebody that's not in the same college or not, in the same
age group.
Yeah. That's so true that you could be friends with a lot of really different people.
Yes. And I think we discount those friendships quickly. Like that doesn't count, but it does.
Right. No, I think absolutely. I feel like my mom was always friends with older people.
That's funny. Because now all your friends are younger.
Mine?
Me, Nicole.
I know. Like at the wedding, I was like, oh, I just think I'm the same age.
I think of you
as I'm like bopping around. I'm like, what am I? Who do I think I am here? I know. But it's just fun. And
it's like when we joke when I'm like, when I'm going to have kids, I'm like, Stacey, you're going to have one too. Like that's the joke. Like I just think of you as the same wavelength.
Ever. Yeah. It's hilarious. No, but it is so true that doesn't, it's really like a mindset thing. And if you connect with somebody, it doesn't matter. Like I never think of our age difference. Very rarely.
No, right.
So yes, interesting point, and that you have to be proactive, and it can look different in your 20s.
Especially with the working at home, especially with
Well, right, because they say the easiest way, or it used to be proximity, was how you met people in your 20s. And with virtual working, it's like, what do you do? Do you know what I mean? Like you're not meeting people at work.
Yep. Yeah.
That's hard.
And I think even now, Danny, my husband, will go work downtown, and then he'll be like, he'll work from home. And in the morning, he's like, oh, I think I'm just going to work from home today. But I notice a difference when he goes into work and just being physically there, interacting with people. And then they go get food for lunch or a happy hour after work.
Just a change of scenery.
He comes home so energetic. Yeah. I'm like, you are someone who likes to be around people. You should be around people. Yeah. Versus like my sister, I feel like she'd be like, that's draining to her.
Like love to be home.
So she has her two good, she has a couple good friends of hers, and that's good. And she likes working from home. So again, to your point, it's like also getting to know ourselves and what our needs are as far as friendships and connection.
Exactly.
So then we get to adulthood and parenting. I feel like parenting's a whole new friend group.
I think parenting is like a reset, because I really did. I'm trying to think of my friends now. I mean, most of them I met after, when I was a parent, because I did meet when they were little through our kids and different ways.
You're like the same thing we talk about with college or high school. It's like you're at the baseball games and you're at the
but you have
activities.
To initiate that too.
But that's what you were saying that.
Yes. Like
I think for me, I have so much family here and roots here. But you were saying when you were in the city that it was harder to connect.
Hard. But I met the girl that I ended hanging out with mostly that had a son Avery's age. I met her at a music class. And then I was telling one of our coworkers here about a mommy and me class. That's where I met a lot of people here. And so that you do have to put yourself in those spaces.
Yes.
But it is like a reset. I think once you have kids, and then it serves a little bit of a different function because you're just different. It's like, oh, let's get together so that we can go to the park so our kids can be together so they have something to do. I mean, it's just like a blip where it feels a little bit different, but I made good friends,
and fun and memories. I feel like there's a whole new world of memories.
During that period.
Yes.
But I just wanted to do this, the stat, because I thought this was interesting. In 1990, so this is adults, I'm assuming.
Wait, before we give the stat.
Yes.
Can we say that friendships are really important to our survival?
Yes, you have to listen to the loneliness episode, which I feel like I always go back to, but we're having a loneliness epidemic in this country.
Yes. And friendships help us survive the things that are really hard.
Yes.
The hard days and and bringing laughter and just good memories. So
it's the
friendships are
connectedness. I
important.
mean, we are hardwired to have to connect, and it doesn't have to be with a bunch of people. It could be with one
It's more about the depth.
person. Yes, whatever you need. Some people really do like a lot of friends. Some people like to have 2 friends, but you need something. Connection is necessary. So I think, okay, the stat maybe
that's
comes into
why.
play.
Yeah, that's
Thank
why
you.
I wanted to preface it with that.
Got it. In 1990, 3% of Americans said they had no close friends. In 2021, 12% of Americans said they had no close friends. And my guess is 2 years later, I think it's probably just going to keep rising.
I know.
Only because of
all
the ways that we don't have to.
Well, and I think too, like we think we're getting false connection from TV shows. Like, you laugh, you cry, you feel emotionally connected to characters.
You feel
shows.
like that's
but
your
I think
interaction.
that's the you get home, you watch a show, makes you I enjoy watching this. Instead, where people used to go to the neighbor's house,
right,
or do this. Like I feel like there's just a lot more.
I have a question. What do you think of social media friends? That's where I thought you were going, but you didn't.
No, I didn't go there. It depends on what we're doing with that.
Yeah.
I've had some of my clients who have a really struggle with social stuff.
Yeah.
Really struggle with in-person social, like spectrum stuff, like clients on the spectrum. Really connect online. With like D&D groups, like safe spaces where they're together, coming together, being creative, doing activities.
Yeah.
But the people who just message, oh, you look gorgeous. I feel like when I think of connection, I think of someone who, or like friendships, I think more of like, can I call you?
Somebody
if I'm
who
having
knows
a bad
something
day?
about you. Okay. And I think, again, we talk about friendships. You have different boxes for different boxes for different friends. And maybe that's an example.
So I think that could be a good.
These are my social media friends. I really like them. They make me feel good. They compliment, me on, whatever it is that I'm posting. But that's not the same box as somebody who I would call.
Right. And I think they can become that.
Yes.
Like I think about Micheline and not like the people that I met through TikTok where I'm like, I could call Micheline and she would be like, I'm having social media. She'd be like, what's up?
Right.
But then I think that I have another level of social media friends where it's like, I'll comment on their stuff like, oh my gosh, you look so cute. Or
That's
this
like
is so
more
funny.
what I was talking about. Because
right.
Where I'm
those
other friendships offline.
Yes. Right. So I think that they can be a good initiator.
Right. But with people thinking these are my friends, sometimes I think with social media and they are just that surface level, just being mindful of that, I think.
That's a good point.
And then going back to the boxes, and I don't know if this is a lesson for parents or maybe even adults, just that it doesn't have to be all or nothing with friendship. Like I've had clients be like, oh, she told my secret. We're done. I hate her. But it's like, well, wait, you have history and I know you have fun with her and I know you like her. Maybe she goes in this box where you don't trust her. Or maybe she goes in the box of people that, you're not in my inner circle, but I really enjoy you and we can still hang out. So it's not like every person has to check every box and that's okay.
Being okay with the changes.
Yes.
Because I do have that a lot where like people have a best friend, the best friend gets a significant other.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, that's my best friend. Well, you can also have other friends. Or maybe right now that relationship shifts to more of like, we're not
different
texting every day and seeing each other every day, but when you see her, you have so much fun together and it's a great time. But to your point, like, let's
switch
not,
the box.
Let's
we don't
not
have to
be rigid in our friendship.
We don't have to like throw it out. Certainly, like if it's like horrible, like if it's horrible and you're mistreated, that's a different thing. But I just see sometimes people get upset and it's like, okay, we're done. And no, maybe that just you kind of like redefine that friendship, and you need different kinds of friends. Yeah, it's like they can't all be. These deep.
We don't have time.
No, I was going to say, like, you can't reciprocate that.
No.
So it's hard, but it's important. And one more thing that I had was people who think that friendships are organic or based on luck are lonelier, which goes to our point that you do have to put yourself out there.
And
because if you're waiting, it might not happen. You can put effort back into your friendships.
And recognize other people are putting effort in. I think, like, again, going back to everyone just has friends, it's like these people probably are putting themselves out there, different things like that.
That's true. And being a friend. Look at you. And maybe this is part of our take, too. Look at yourself.
I like where you're going.
do you like where I'm headed?
I like where you're headed.
We don't even need to talk. It's just like bridesmaids. We just nod. So, look at yourself. Like, am I showing up? Am I the friend that I want to be? And like, how are my friendships?
Yeah. And is there anything you want to tweak? Or do you feel like, okay, I feel like I've grown distant. Like me and my friends don't have as much in common anymore. That's okay. Find friends that are fitting who you're becoming, because we're always evolving and changing and our life looks different. It's okay if your friendships evolve and change and look different.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you feeling about your friendships, and what do you want to change? And just realizing, you are very empowered. Exactly. You can do that. Like, you have a lot of control over this.
Yes.
And so maybe even just like reaching out and texting someone and telling them that you appreciate them.
Yes. And I think we could do an episode, like if you guys ask questions about friendships, like how to make new friends, like more getting into the nitty gritty of it instead of this like broad throughout our life stages. And we can give some more tips around that. But I like that.
I think that
Take two moment.
That would be good.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you for tuning in to our podcast. You can find us on TikTok at Take2Pod.
And on Instagram at Take2.pod.
And we look forward to hearing from you guys. And thanks for watching, and see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Take Two podcast. Lindsay and Stacy are licensed therapists, but they aren't your therapists, and this podcast is not therapy. Production assistance is provided by Bird Blue Creative at bird.blue.